Hey everyone, it's Scott from servermedia.com, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to cache the WP-JSON response using Cloudflare. So a JSON request is used by a lot of themes and plugins now where they can communicate with the WordPress REST API to either retrieve post, that's the most common form, or to display out something on the front end. And the problem with WP-JSON is by default it's not cached. And the disadvantage to this is it hits the server directly, and if you're on a shared host, some of the slower hosts like GoDaddy, HostGator, Bluehost, you may notice if you have a JSON request in your HTML using something like GTmatrix, you might notice a really slow response time. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you a quick tip with Cloudflare that allows you to cache that response so that way you can reduce the response time on the front end and reduce the amount of resources that your server is using. So what you got to do is you have to go to your domain of choice, click on the page rules tab, and we're going to click create a page rule. Whatever you do, you need to start off by hitting the star button and typing in your domain name. So what we did is the star is a wildcard, which means regardless of the site being over HTTP, HTTPS, no matter how the request is sent, it will match. And then you go /WP-JSON, and then you put another star. So no matter what follows the WP-JSON URL, it will be matched to this rule. Everything after this request does in fact match any formal response that you're going to get from the REST API. Then you're going to have to do a couple things. You're going to go to the Edge Cache Ttl. The Edge Cache Ttl tells Cloudflare's Edge servers the maximum allowed time that it can save that resource in cache. This doesn't mean that it is guaranteed that that resource will last in cache. For instance, you can set it up to a month. However, if the resource is requested very infrequently, maybe you have a very low traffic website, it will not stay in cache for that duration. This is just the maximum allowed time. If you have an API request that changes very frequently, you may need to set a lower interval. But the general rule of thumb that I do is I set it to every 12 hours. And then for the cache level, you're going to set it here and you're going to select cache everything. And depending on the headers that your server sends, you may need to do one more thing, and that is to set the Browser Cache Ttl. Sometimes the browser also needs to cache the response that it's getting from this service. And I typically set it to the exact same duration as the Edge Cache Ttl, but the Browser Cache Ttl doesn't matter nearly as much. If the response differs, it should update just fine in the browser, and it doesn't really matter. But this just makes sure if you have a cache control header on the server that sets it to 0, this should override it. You can really set the Browser Cache Ttl to whatever you wish. Set it to a year if you're trying to pass the GTmatrix test for the leveraged browser caching rule. And then all you need to do is go ahead and hit save and deploy, and this will add the rule and start caching your responses. Remember that the first time the JSON API gets hit, the response will return CF cache status miss, and then subsequent hits to the API will be cached. If you have any questions about this or for your particular setup, as always, please feel free to ask in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.